Hello folks, and up for sale today I've got a bad unit. This is a 1991 Land Rover Defender 90 200 TDI. This is a UK import. It's right-hand drive. It was legally imported. It's now located here in Michigan and comes with a clean, clear Michigan title. So this might be a super long video because there's so much to show you on this, and I also have some off-road footage from England that I'll try to squeeze in as well. Well, let me start with the basics real quick. The only thing that might need repair, doesn't need it, but the bulkhead corners are rusty. All right, that is about it. The footwells are good. The doors are newer. They've been replaced, so they're in great shape. And the chassis is good as well. Not excellent, but good, very good. It's not going to crack in half on you. There are no repairs needed. Small patch here. And this bulkhead has been enclosed. I don't know if it came that way, but there's nowhere for mud to get stuck in here and rust out. So that's awesome. That's either a custom built bulkhead or it came that way, but that's pretty sweet. Other than that, no real problem areas at all. She runs absolutely great. So I'm just gonna start here in the back, I guess. We've got a ladder, and on top here, there's a serious amount of kit. We've got your stretcher for injured people, a set of solar panels, some traction pads here, a storage container up front, and all the windows have these like cages on here to prevent theft. In the back here, we've got a bunch of, land anchor, shovel, I don't know, like a nozzle, block and tackle, farm jack. There's a serious like 12-foot tall antenna right here, and there's the wiring for it. There's also a hand wash basin or little sink. And I think this thing powers up and makes hot water, if I'm not mistaken. And then there's also a safe here. It does come with a key. I don't know the code for it, but you can open and close it. Rear cross member. It's had a patch here and there, but super solid, as I showed you from the other side. We got these aftermarket bumper guards and steps, tree sliders, window cages on the rear as well. Beautiful set of BF Goodrich mud terrains, 16-inch steel wheels, side steps. There's the military antenna. I don't know what that does, if it works or not, but that's pretty sweet. Passenger door, same shape, beautiful condition. So this was replaced recently, so those are pretty rust free. We've got seat covers, and then under the seat covers there's these aftermarket seat heaters, which is nice. Speakers, fire extinguisher. That's like not a sunroof, but it just opens up. It's like a hatch. Tons and tons of goodies. This was wired by somebody who was probably not a finish carpenter, more like a framer or a roofer, but it's all working. It's good stuff. We got power inverters. There's an inverter in the battery box. Something else right there, charging. So this is the solar panel control. What else we got? Snorkel. Snorkel is missing the top cap, but it is all plumbed and ready to go underwater. Here's the pick. Up front here, we've got the light protectors, winch bumper with the winch, and radiator muff. We've got the 200 TDI. This has a 300 TDI cover on it, which is nice, helps with the sound. And engine runs great. Here's the plumbing for your snorkel. That's all military as well. Super tidy under here as well. Looks like a new fuel filter. There's your VIN tag. Checker plate on the wings. We got a massive light bar up front, a spotlight as well. This works too. You just have to kind of unravel this wire and you plug it in down here. And I guess you can remove this spotlight and kind of carry it around as a torch. CB antenna. This is a nice little awning. I included a picture in the eBay listing, but it folds out a good 10 feet or so. And then you can put your chairs and table underneath it. Got a extra jerry can. And in the driver's position, this was a Marine Division, whatever. These are waterproof gauges. So I guess you can drive this underwater and the gauges won't fail on you. You got an altimeter, you got a Geiger counter, all sorts of buttons here. There's a radio there, there's a tape player here, there's a little glass smasher there. So let's go ahead and fire it up. Wait, here's the military badge as well. And there's your VIN number if you want to pause that, take a look at it. But yeah, every time I drive this thing, something else cool pops up and I love it even more. So it runs great. Basically, there's your ignition. Fires right up. And then you turn that on for your radio. That's another power switch right there. This is where you plug in the spotlight. This is your light bar. This is your headlamps or running lights, headlights. And then I think over here is like convoy mode. Heated windshield, folks. All right, so there's tiny, tiny little wires in this whole windshield and it heats it up. Also, we got a backup camera as well. And then I think AV1, I don't know what that does, but it looks like you might be able to play movies on that somehow, which would be hilarious. But yeah, you can turn the backup camera on or completely off, and there's your rear view mirror. Radio's working. Center cubby box. A tape player for some reason. Timmy Horties. Cup holder. Vents. Map light. Also forgot to mention, we got a tire pressure system as well, which is pretty awesome. Each valve stem on each tire has got a little sensor. So it's in bar, but not PSI, so you got to do some maths, but pretty sweet. Heated windshield, I already said that, but it's awesome to be mentioned again. All right, a little bit of a rattle coming out of the airbox. Runs really good. Pretty decent oil. And no smoke coming out of the tailpipe. Alright, so here's the rear end of the vehicle. There's the rear chassis. It's looking a little dirty, but it's still super solid. Rear end is not leaking. A-frame ball joint is not rattling or clunking at all, so it's all pretty solid. And you can see there's factory seams there on the rear chassis. A little bit of welding right there, but you know, she's a beast. She's been used off-road, and that's what it's for exactly. Rear drum brakes. Shocks and springs are good. They're not new, but they don't rattle and they ride pretty decent. All right, so here we are on the passenger side. The front radius arms bushings look good. Front outriggers look good. There's your side steps, and you know, I believe that is factory paint still there on the chassis, which is awesome. So the chassis, you know, it's got a little bit of rust, a little bit of surface rust, but it's pretty solid actually. There's the rear axle, looks good. Just surface rust, could be cleaned up, could be left alone. There's the rear transfer, or the center diff transfer case. The muffler looks new as well. That's in decent shape. And then there's the center cross member. And let's go up front. All right, up front here, shocks and springs are in decent shape. They're not new, but this is something I haven't really seen before. There's like an actual boot over top of the swivel joint. Maybe that's a military thing. So it's a little extra added precaution to keep the seals clean. There's a diff protector there on the axle, and same thing on the passenger side. There's like a fabric or a rubber type boot over top of the swivels. So that's awesome. Track rod looks good. Tie rod ends look good. And then here's the bottom of the motor. Actually looks pretty clean. This is a really good running 200 TDI. Maybe a little bit of oil coming out of the sump seal, but nothing serious. And we've got a massive skid plate here up front. Rebel. And there's a good look at the winch bumper. And let's take a little bit closer look at the engine bay. There's the passenger side footwell. That's in great shape. And the driver's footwell as well. Pretty decent as well. Let's say well one more time. And okay, so a little bit of a leak coming out of the valve cover gasket, as you can see right there, but that's a quick, easy fix. Lots of good new rubber under here, radiator hoses, intake hoses, alternator belt, a couple little teeth missing out of that. We'll try to get that replaced. And then intake side looks good. So that intake gasket is doing its job. I don't see any oil leaking out of there. And soundproofing on the bonnet, pretty decent shape. A little bit of a hole right there, but I've definitely seen worse. All right, so let's take her for a spin. All right, a little bit different of a camera angle this time. I didn't want to shoot through this gate. And anyway, so a little bit up close and personal today. So one thing I really want to say about this Defender, yeah, it's a little bit tatty, a little bit worn, but it has been maintained and it feels super solid on the road. Engine runs great. Suspension feels nice and sturdy. It does have a CB antenna and we're smacking a few tree branches here and there, but runs fantastic. And again, I've had this thing off-road. Four-wheel drive works great. We're gonna take it down a dirt road here. We just took off there from second gear. Here's third gear. 30 miles an hour. So it's very surprising how many things are attached to this vehicle and hung here and there that it doesn't rattle very much at all. A little bit of squeaking out of the back, but super solid ride. Gear changes are great. No grinding at all from the gearbox. No clunking or slop in the drive line. Steering is nice and tight. And you got an aftermarket steering wheel on here, so it gives your hand position a little bit of room between the window. So we're just cruising along here in fourth gear. I'm going to downshift into third gear for this hill. Pulling to the right or left. That was real hard on the brakes. Brakes work great. Spin it around here. Let me show you reverse. No squeaking out of the power steering at full lock. It's actually pretty quiet in here. There's all sorts of soundproofing in the floor as well. And let's fly through the gears one more time. Man, it is so nice to have the windows down in Michigan. We finally got a nice spring day here.